Well, what's up? It's Esther RP Church Devotional Podcast. Clint Davis, your host. Hey, thanks for being with us. We are in Esther chapter 9, beginning in verse 11, continuing to read through the end of this story in the book of Esther, where the Jews have defended themselves and they were able to keep from being annihilated. We talked about that last time. Beginning in verse 11, this is what we read. That very day, the number of those killed in Susa the citadel was reported to the king, and the king said to Queen Esther, "In Susa the citadel the Jews have killed and destroyed 500 men and also the 10 sons of Haman. What then have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is your wish? It shall be granted to you. And what further is your request? It shall be fulfilled." And Esther said, "If it pleases the king, let the Jews who are in Susa be allowed tomorrow also to do according to this day's edict, and let the 10 sons of Haman be hanged on the gallows." So the king commanded this to be done. A decree was issued in Susa, and the 10 sons of Haman were hanged. The Jews who were in Susa gathered also on the 14th day of the month of Adar, and they killed 300 men in Susa, but they laid no hands on the plunder. And the rest of the Jews who were in the king's provinces also gathered to defend their lives and got relief from their enemies, and killed 75,000 of those who hated them, but they laid no hands on the plunder. This was on the 13th day of the month of the Adar, and on the 14th day they rested and made that day a day of feasting and gladness. But the Jews who were in Susa also gathered on the 13th day and the 14th day and rested on the 15th day, making that day of feasting and gladness. Therefore the Jews of the villages who live in the rural towns hold the 14th day of the month of Adar as a day of gladness and feasting, as a holiday, and as a day on which they send gifts for food to one another. So all totaled, 75,000 people were killed who had come against the Jews. Again, that's not that many people. It seems like a lot, but when you think about the entirety of the Medo-Persian Empire, at least it doesn't seem like a lot to me. You go from India to Ethiopia. I mean, this is a massive 127 provinces, and they were able to kill the people who came against them. This was God-given victory to them, but 75,000 is a lot of people. But in the grand scheme of that province, it doesn't seem as large as it could be. Maybe that's the better way to put it. It's one of those deals where, as I read this, and I may be wrong, but as I read this, it seems to me, and I said this before, it seems to me that this could have been a lot worse had Haman still been in leadership. The 10 sons of Haman were killed and then hung out on display. There was a vindictive streak to Queen Esther here. If you notice that, the king says, "What do you want?" She says, "Well, I want to hang these sons of Haman out here on the street corners and let people see them." This is what happens when you go against God's people, go against the king. You plot against the peoples of the empire. And the king was like, "Okay, that's fine," and he did it. They made a point, and the point was that the people of God will be protected. We're not going to stand for this in the empire. And God organized for this to take place. The Jews were freed from their enemies. They were given victory over their enemies. They were given rest, and as they should, they used the next day as a feast day. So they killed 500 on the 13th day of Adar in the citadel of Susa. They had a second day to do the same thing, as people were still angry with the Jews, and so plotting to kill them. And so they came back against them, killed 300 more men in the citadel of Susa that day, and then they had a day of feast on the 15th day. The people out in the villages and the rural communities, they killed everybody that they were going to kill who came against them on the 13th day, and then on the 14th day they rested and had a feast day. And so they celebrated what God had done for them and how God provided for them and their victory. And sometimes we read these old stories from modern eyes, and it seems harsh for us to think about they're celebrating the death of other people, that these are victory moments. But you have to remember, if you put yourself in a position where where you're threatened for your life, and you have the opportunity to defend yourself, and they come at you trying to kill you, your natural instinct to survive kicks in. And you kill them, and you have victory, and God gives you victory. And certainly there were probably Jews killed in the battle. But the emphasis is on the number of non-Jews killed because God was providing victory for his people. You're going to celebrate as well. You're going to celebrate what God has done. The carnage is a bad thing. Nobody likes the carnage. They're not celebrating over the carnage. What they're doing, they're celebrating over the victory that God brought to them. And I think for us, sometimes we need to recognize when we read these stories that this is a different world we live in, but also we have opportunities to celebrate the victories that God brings to us, the healings that he brings to us, the victories in spirit that he brings to us, but also the victories in our lives where we see very real evidence of God bringing victory for his people to establish his name and to settle his name upon the nations, as it were. And we need to celebrate those things, and we need to give God praise for those things, and we need to give God glory for those things, and we need to be glad in those moments where God provides victory for us as we fight to establish and maintain our freedom. We need to give God praise for when we see him do works to ensure that we get to keep it. That's all I have today. You guys take care. God bless you. I'll catch you next time.